I didn't say drunk. I said comfortable. To me, it was normal.
Bassoon.
Bassoon. Second measure.
Flat, and the second measure, E.
The second is E, and the first note is D flat?
No.
Which one do you mean?
You have B flat,
Yeah.
E flat, G flat, A flat.
You're talking about right here.
The C
That's
flat
out
was for the
tempo?
oboe.
The first out tempo? You lead out there, that's concert performance now, let's see. No, come on. Off the first one, an eighth note, and wait for the second beat, put an accent on it, ready? And a crescendo.
Well, most of his problems was when he would write his own prescriptions.
I began writing prescriptions for a different type. Well, it's the same type of drug. It's a morphine derivative, Dilaudid, and I continued to use that. I would go in a drugstore. I would know the type of drug I'm getting. I would know exactly what's in it.
And of course, then it was not until after he would get involved with the police that the real trouble started, you know.
At that time, there was no narcotic squad. It was called a vice. It was the vice squad. And they know everything that's going on. So it wasn't long before I got in trouble with the law the first time.
Well, he was just always in trouble with the police, and we were always despaired trying to help him. And we couldn't quite understand how he could be so, so unreasonable in not realizing what he was getting into.
To realize that I was behind bars simply because of this substance that I wanted to put into my body.
It was just a nightmare to have to go into a place like that and to think that Pat would have to spend some time there.
I survived prison by being very careful and staying much to myself, and I taught classes in music appreciation beside working for the psychologist. So you see, I wasn't caught up in the criminal element because, well, it's needless to say that you can find anything you want in prison. If you want to learn to crack a safe, you can learn to crack a safe. If you want to read Plato, you can read Plato. It's your decision to make. If you want to either build your life or destroy your life, you can do either.
Terrible. It was terrible to see him going there with so much talent, which, by rights, he didn't do nothing wrong to the people.
He just hurt
Well, he wasn't doing something wrong for himself, that he couldn't even help himself. That's the way they drive us crazy. He tried to help himself and he couldn't do it.
So, actually, the only thing imprisonment did was take me away from music, because when I got out of prison and started working and the pressures would descend upon me again, I knew that there was a substance that would make me feel comfortable, and I would start dabbling again, very little, and I would be back in the same fix. The doctor who helped bring my son into the world, Dr. Rocco Antonucci, took a great interest in me and thought it was very unjust, the laws, the fact that he wasn't able to treat me.
Pat came to my office shortly after this, when I opened up in Mogador, and they asked if I would help him with a drug addiction problem. There were some newspaper articles at the time where a Dr. Neiswander from New York City had developed a methadone maintenance treatment program, and at that time had 23 patients.
He got permission from Washington, went to New York and visited their setup there, how they were working with addicts, came back, and he put me on a maintenance dose.
The methadone maintenance treatment program was designed to treat hardcore heroin addicts who needed multiple dosages of heroin to just survive on a day-to-day basis. We find that we can switch an addict who is addicted to either the natural or synthetic opiate type drugs over to methadone, and he can become addicted to the methadone, which there prevents him from getting high. Say if he would shoot a large dose of heroin, the methadone blocks it. The blockading property is the most useful property of the methadone. And that's the reason the clinic was started, to block heroin addicts and discourage them from using heroin. First, because the heroin was very expensive, and it required multiple dosages in a given day. Methadone can be used once a day.
Well, I've had so much time now. I've had time to work all day long. My whole day, I spend 12 to 16 hours a day in music. I don't run around anymore. I have no reason to. I don't seek out any illegal chemicals. My need is completely fulfilled. I would certainly like to be drug-free completely, but this allows me to pursue my career in music. One dose of methadone taken orally will sustain one from 24 to 36 hours. And the biggest asset of all, the legality of it.
Methadone has to be given at a clinic setting daily. We cannot give it to an individual, say, to take home and use. He has to come to the clinic. We find it now that relationship that the patient develops in the clinic setting is probably the biggest part of his treatment.
It's a daily, every morning, and I'm on a low dosage, which enables me to complete the day and the night, just as any normal person would, as a diabetic would, after he's received his insulin.
Does not get high from methadone. Methadone just satisfies a craving for drug without giving the high that the heroin or some of the other opiate-type drugs would give. Now, the methadone treatment is being used all over the United States at the present time, and it's federally approved, federally funded. Clinics are all over the country. We have 9 in the state of Ohio now, but it all started with Pat Pace. It's only these past 4 or 5 years that my life has really gotten into music. I've really gotten seriously into it. I've formed a quartet. It's a very good group, a fusion between jazz and rock. And every once in a while I'll play some Debussy. And we do jazz concerts. And I hope that this will continue and escalate. If
If anything, the classics have helped my jazz improvisations because I draw exclusively from classical composition. That's where I draw most of my material for improvisations. I love the freedom of it. I think it's a great source of satisfaction to be able to create immediately, which is what improvisation basically is immediate composition. One of the